And I want to say welcome, Andrea Smith. How are you today?
No, I'm great.
What's new and exciting with Andrea and Get Social?
What's new and exciting with Get Social? Very busy right now. I'm working on lots of fun things with clients. Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about, we get a lot of questions about how do you find your customers, and we do get a lot of questions
Mm,
about targeting customers on Facebook.
yeah.
So hopefully we're going to be covering a lot of that today.
Yeah.
And
So, yeah.
well, we might as well jump into it, and I'm going to ask
Okay.
you a little bit about you while you get your presentation up and running. And
Okay.
I'm going to mention to the people in the chat room that you're going to get out of this what you put into it. So please ask your questions.
Yes.
We'll make it as interactive as possible, and we'll definitely, we usually don't leave with questions unanswered at the end. So don't be shy. If you're asking questions, be as specific as possible. If you're targeting women, say you're targeting women. If you're targeting an age group, say that. If you're targeting specific interests or what your product is, tell us. Give us as much information in the window as possible so that we can, give you very specific advice. And just throw those questions in the chat room or in the Q&A window. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So, Andrea, why don't you tell us a
Okay.
little bit about yourself, or do you have a slide for
Sure.
that?
I do have a slide for that.
Fantastic.
Let me just start sharing here. Okay.
Some of you may not know, but Andrea's been part of the TorontoStarts leadership team for, I'm going to say 5 years. It's been forever now. I don't know if it's been longer than 5 years.
It's right around the 5 year point, I think. Yeah. First off, I just wanted to say this presentation I'm doing is taken straight from a Facebook advertising workshop course that I have called Facebook Ads Success. And so there is a workbook that I've designed to go along with this lesson of my course. So I just wanted to offer it up to all of you. I'll reference it a couple times during this because it gives you lots of extra prompts and spaces to kind of write in all your notes. So if you do want to grab the download of that, this is the link for that. You can head on over to get-social.ca/workbook to get the PDF there if you want to follow along in that. Who am I? So I started in traditional XM marketing agency about 12 years ago, and that's where I kind of got my passion for marketing. I was actually not hired as a marketer at all, but within 6 months was an account manager there because I just loved that side of things so much more. And so following that, I managed a number of small businesses across many sectors, and I still do manage a small business a few days a week in the hospitality industry. I started Get Social about 4.5, probably almost 5 years ago, around the same time I've been with TorontoStarts. And yeah, I've taught my Facebook ad success workshop for about 2+ years. And I did pivot it online recently in March when I could not run it in person any longer. And so this is kind of going to be an excerpt from that today. Okay.
Fabulous. I'm looking forward to it.
So again, if you wanted to get the workbook to follow along, that's the link for that. And I can put this up at the end again too. So understanding your target customer. So target customer, buyer persona, ideal buyer, customer avatar, target market. So all these phrases are kind of used interchangeably to describe a fictional generalized representation of who is most likely to be the person to buy from you. So it's very important to the success of your marketing, sales, product development, to understand who this customer avatar is. You've probably heard the phrase, you can't hit a target that you haven't set. That very much applies to this. You can't find your customer if you haven't set kind of the goal and figured out what that goal is. So the first question you want to ask yourself when you're looking to determine your target customer is to really understand what is the problem that your product or service is solving. You want to narrow this down to about 3 pain points. So in these 3 points, you're going to, let me just switch slides here. You're going to think about the number one type of person who has these problems that you've identified. Once you have a clear idea of your pain points, you're going to want to take that main one from your list and think about all the traits about this person. Let your imagination run wild, take a deep dive into their life, their details. You're gonna wanna think about things like age, marital status, living situation, their work life, their habits, their likes, their dislikes, hobbies, entertainment preferences, what kind of people do they follow. And then you can use all of these prompts and put them into that workbook. There's little fill-in spots for all of these things, among others than the ones that I have named there. Once you have just this massive brain dump of all the things, just thinking about this person whose pain point you're going to solve with your product or service, you're going to want to roll this up into what I like to call a category of your persona. So this category takes this big brain dump of information and organizes it into the targeting options that Facebook uses so that you can actually act on this data and use it within your advertising. So this next slide here shows the four targeting category options that Facebook offers to you. We're just going to be focusing on this in the three different ones: the interest, demographics, and behaviors. The connections is a little bit different and doesn't really play into this tool that I'm going to be showing you in a few minutes. So for demographics, that's things like your location, age, language, education, relationship status, life events, that kind of thing. Their interests are going to be what business industry are they interested in, their entertainment preferences, health and wellness, food and drink, hobbies, things that they're interested in. And then behaviors is more their behaviors around these interests. So automotive would be what kind of car do they drive? You know, what kind of job do they have? What kind of travel habits do they have? Do they travel a lot? Do they not travel very much? Do they take overseas trips? Do they do more domestic travel? That would be the behavior side of things, not that they have an interest in travel and leisure. That would go into the more interest category of things. So those are the different categories. So you're going to go back and take all of that brain dumped information and narrow it down and categorize it into these options. So I'm going to show you how to validate this information and expand on it shortly using a tool that Facebook offers to everyone for free. I use it even for things outside of Facebook for marketing, just to kind of test out, okay, so if someone likes this, are they going to like this as well? And it really helps you with that. So my mock business that I take you through in my Facebook course is a boutique fitness studio here in Toronto. So this would be one of the categories that I've created for the boutique fitness Pilates studio, whatever. So that would be the healthy mom is the title of this category. So what influencers does she follow? I've labeled that. What kind of media does she take in? Websites, podcasts, TV shows, that type of thing. Behavior traits. So this is around healthy eating, fitness habits, those behaviors, favorite brands, because you can target according to what kind of brands they like, if they're big enough brands. What kind of apps does she have on her phone? And then you're getting into your actual demographic category, which is the age range, gender, do they have children, are they married, education level, job, that kind of thing. So next, we're going to go into a tool that Facebook offers called the Audience Insights tool. And I'm going to do a walkthrough of how you can enter all of this information from this slide here. So you have your persona and you can enter it in there, validate it, see if it all makes sense, and then save it as an audience for you to use in your advertising later on. Okay. me just switch my screen share here to the next window. Okay. And to find this tool, you can just Google audience insights and it comes up, or you can just see it's facebook.com/business/insights/tools/audience-insights. So you'll get a page that looks like this, and you'll just hit go to audience insights. And from there, it asks you for one of two initial options. So the first one is everyone on Facebook in the entire world, or only people that are connected to your page. As you can see, I have my personal ads account coming up here. So only people that would be connected to the page, pages that I own. You're gonna want to choose everyone on Facebook. Although this option here gives you a good idea of the demographics, interests, behaviors, and information on your current followers if you have a big following on your Facebook page. So we hit everyone on Facebook. Now we're into the tool here. So all of our stuff we're going to input is going to be along the side here, and then we will be able to flip through the different categories and see different graphs and data. Right now it has auto-filled the US, and it shows you all of the data for all the people who are on Facebook in the US. So right now it's 56% women, 45% men, 52% of Facebook users in the US are married, a lot of university education. You can see the top job titles that are used. And then you can go into page likes and see some of the top pages that are being followed by all of the US. Yeah. So from here, we're going to start entering our information. So we're going to go back to that slide that was the healthy mom, and we're going to put the information in there as if we were going to be marketing our boutique fitness studio and validating that persona. So first off, we're going to start with Toronto because it is a local business. It's not something that's online.
And when I do target Toronto, I always target, within 25 miles of that pin, that puts at the center. Is there a better way of doing that? Or do you think 25 miles is the right amount?
It depends on your business. If it's a very localized bricks and mortar business, no, that would be much too big. People aren't going to travel that far for like your coffee shop or your restaurant or something like that. If it's something that would have like more of an attraction or something like that, that would bring people in that are further away from that, then you would go bigger with that.
Okay.
This specific tool doesn't let you dive that deep into the location targeting. Once you save this audience that you're creating in this tool and use it in your ads manager, then you can tweak those things. So this just gives you the generalized.
Yeah, I think if I was a restaurant, though, I wouldn't mind that because I would target people who are interested in the concert houses around me or the big places so that you advertise to the people who are looking at Lee's Palace or whatever the concert venues are because I'm within a half a kilometer of that.
True. Okay, so the next we're going to just put in our age range, which for this persona was 28 to 45. And the healthy mom, we're going to go with women. So already we can look at our demographics and see that it's very much changed. Job titles have changed, our education levels, and of course 0% men because we've chosen only women. Page likes have changed a lot too, and they're more local based. You can see they're mostly Canadian and Toronto businesses and things right now, whereas they were big US brands before. From there, you can take this little box, and this is where you start typing in your different interests and behaviors into. So we're going to start with yoga. So a lot of options come up here. And so you're going to want to watch when you choose some of these. So there we go. Interests, fitness and wellness, yoga. So you're going to always want to watch this little trail because I'm going to add one here. Let me just find, I think this is a good example of that. Oh, no. Let me see. Okay, interests.
What's that fitness cycle place near Workhouse that we?
I think there's a Soul Cycle down around there.
Yeah, there's something. Anyway, Whole Foods, good call.
Okay, so Whole Foods.
Is there any special techniques when you're picking these? Because sometimes I find I'm using all the wrong words and things aren't coming up at all.
So let me just. I use my brain dump. I type it all into this instead of right into the targeting tool in Facebook.
Okay.
And that's where I kind of validate all of this. Is it on here? Isn't it? If you're looking at specific brands and personalities, influencers, things like that, they have to be really big to be on here and listed. Okay. The small to medium-sized businesses and pages and personalities, they're not going to show up on here. No one truly knows when they get to be a target, but there's some sort of tipping point in the algorithm where something's big enough that they allow you to target it. I think they just don't want to get too personal with things. Same thing if you don't have enough data in some of your remarketing stuff, that you can't use that, email list, that kind of thing. It's the same way with this, and it has to be quite large corporations usually for this to work.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can. So you got to watch. So when you saw, I did one Whole Foods here, and then the second one is Whole Foods Market Chicago. It's picked up a local one. That's not going to work for us. So sometimes multiple ones come up. I can't get it to happen right now, but in the past when I've targeted something like Whole Foods, being an employee as that corporation has come up. So it becomes like in behaviors, employment, Whole Foods. So you wouldn't want that one. You want it as an interest that they like to use that. Okay, so there we go. She follows Gwyneth Paltrow. Okay, so there's a good amount of the interest that we had on our list. So next you're going to want to go into. So we have our interests finished. We have pages. So we can, that was kind of that fourth option where it allows you to only target people connected to your page, not connected to your page. If you're going with a cold audience, you're trying to find a new audience, chances are you're not going to use these this section here for pages or your connections. Under advanced, that's where we get into the more advanced demographics. So relationship status, we had said the healthy mom is most likely married, and then it actually gives you more options. Education level, we're gonna say university or higher. And parents, it's the healthy mom, so we're gonna hit all parents. So how to validate your findings from what you've entered into this tool. You're going to look at what it's come up with. So you've put in everything you think your target customer is. Now take a good look at it and see if what Facebook is spitting out at you here in these stats actually matches that perception that you initially had. So get into job titles. You can see, does this kind of make sense? But where it really helps is page likes. So these kind of things that it's showing. So our healthy mom is interested in the Toronto District School Board, most likely because her children probably go to school here in Toronto. YMCA Good Life Fitness. Yes, that's showing that they have an interest, and it's pretty high up on the list of top categories. So it looks like we're getting pretty warm with what we're doing. Healthy food shopping, Mama Earth Organics. They're a organic produce delivery service here in the city. So that also fits with it too. So you can see we've probably got a pretty good hold on who we want to be targeting with this audience. So that this will be a good audience for us to test out. And then you can also do the same thing with the page likes. What kind of pages are this audience most likely to be a member of or liking? And you can see lots of local based stuff because that's what we're targeting. And most of this really does fit with the persona that we kind of had in our head of that healthy mom.
And would you normally use that list that you were just showing us can you scroll down again? Sorry, I wanted to give you an example.
Which one? The page likes?
Yeah. Would you go to those pages and see if they had groups or whatnot where there was discussions that you could join and advertise to eventually?
For the pages, yes, you can. I often do click through to the pages and kind of look at what kind of content they have going on. Obviously, if they're popular with the audience I'm trying to be targeting, then they're doing something right with that audience. So I can always get ideas from that. Something like Toronto Public Health or TDSB, not so much. But any of the business pages, I'm going to go there and look for ideas and look for more hints and information on my target audience. It's just another place to gather data from.
I guess what I'm saying is, let's, as an example, here at the top, we got Kid Palooza or Toronto District School Board. Okay, Toronto District School Board, why not? If there's a PE day coming up, wouldn't you think that it might be worth to jump into if there is a group that you could join and just maybe offer something, hey, for teachers or whatever, here's our discount for PE day, and just push it, whether it's advertising or not. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, so these are the pages. You can click through to the pages and it does show you groups related to pages on it now. So you could do that through and try to join in on the groups for sure.
Because I'm always talking to people about, finding your target audience and getting in front of them. And I'm like, oh, here's a bunch of pages. Yeah.
Yeah. So you type in what you think the person likes and it spits back everything else that they also like, which maybe you didn't know about. So it's a great place to gather more information. So like I did mention earlier, I do tend to use this for marketing purposes outside of Facebook even, because it does give me an idea of more interests and where these people are spending their time, money, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I noticed at the top there was a Toronto rail train or something. I saw it somewhere. I can't, but it was interesting to look at these things and figure out whether you could do something in conjunction with them. Because it wasn't something I thought would have seen. Sorry, York Durham Heritage Railway. I'm like, hey,
so that is probably a fun place to take your young children on a train ride or something like that.
Absolutely. My thought, though, is it's number 5 here. That's pretty high on the list, and I would never have thought of that to target parents.
Yep.
So it's just interesting to look at. I wouldn't necessarily, throw Facebook ads or whatnot, but you could go out there, find out what's there, who goes there, interview them, put up ads, see if you can put something on the bulletin board, or maybe even run events out of there or something.
Definitely.
Fitness boot camp at the railway.
Yeah. So there are 2 other categories of information that it shows you once you get everything plugged in, your location. So we're targeting just Toronto. If I was targeting all of Canada, this would be more interesting because it would show me, maybe I'll just switch that. So I'm going to switch to all of Canada right now. So it's showing me. So my whole audience is within Canada, but there's a slightly higher concentration of these people in these areas here. that fit with what I was targeting with those interests. So instead of narrowing it to just Toronto, we can see where there is a bit more of our selected audience in these different locations. And you can see it's much higher in the larger cities that probably have a Soul Cycle and a Whole Foods versus these small cities and towns that don't have these. So as you can see, Toronto is quite a bit higher. And then you can also see their frequency of activities. So how many pages on average did these people like? How many ads have they clicked in the last 30 days? This one, how many posts have they hit like on? How many comments have they made? How many posts have they shared? And that kind of thing. So that's always good to see if you have an audience that is active on Facebook or not. So if the person we're targeting here is clicking an average of 38 ads in the last month, that's pretty good. They're pretty engaged and not afraid to click on an ad and interact.
But
and
I like
also,
I like that it tells you if they don't click
yeah,
on ads, that you can realize, okay, well, this isn't necessarily the ad platform for me,
yeah,
but
that
I can
maybe they're
still,
not here.
but I can, well, maybe they're not, they might be here. I might be able to dig up much information about pages they like, companies they like, places they like to
Mm-hmm.
go, and still use that, just not necessarily on the Facebook platform.
Yeah. And then it also shows you which devices they're using to reach Facebook. So you can see, like, we're always mobile heavy these days, or a bit of both. Very few people are only accessing via desktop these days. And so iPhone, so if you're thinking about creating an app, you can see, like, maybe just go through the iPhone version over the Android if you can only develop one at a time, because so much higher on iPhone for this audience. So you can always look at these and just to make little correlations and hints as to their behaviors, their interests, and where you can find them. And then when you want to eventually put this into your Facebook ad and use this audience that you've played with and got where you like, you can just hit the save button up here, give it a name, and then you can, when you're later on in your ads manager, pull it up as a saved audience to use.
So this is saying we're at all of Canada, I guess, right now,
Yes.
that it's 350K to 400K people based on your interests that you can target.
Yes. Yes. So this is the estimate of the audience size, is this right here. So this is, what do we have here on our interests again? We have people who like yoga, Whole Foods, Soul Cycle, Lululemon, and Goop.
And only women.
Only
Only.
women aged 28 to 45 who are parents married with a university education.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so that is pretty much one of my favorite tools when it comes down to Facebook advertising and how I tend to validate and find my target audiences. I'm just going to flip back to my slides here. There we go. And I'm ready for some questions. So if we have some ready, that would be great.
Yep.
Ask me anything about your audience. And then if you do want to learn more about me, I'll just quickly get into this. I have two options. If you are looking to learn how to do more of this, like I said, this here was one of the lessons taken from my Facebook ads success. You can go to facebook-ads.ca, and for $10 off the program, TorontoStarts 10. And then if you're looking for someone to more help you hands-on, I do offer consulting services around Facebook advertising from my Get Social. And you can book a 30-minute virtual coffee meetup with me to talk about your goals and how I can help you with your marketing in your business.
So, how many of these saved audiences can you have?
I have not hit a limit.
So hundreds,
Yeah.
or at least, which is great. And so let me ask you a next question on that. So I've gone
Mhm.
on, I've created an audience based on these things. Let's just say because at Toronto Starts, I've gone on and looked for entrepreneurial stuff,
Yeah.
and I now have saved that, and now I can go on and target them as an audience. Can I target them
Mhm.
and a lookalike audience, or is it built the lookalike audience as a result? It's the same technology.
So this is instead of filling all of this information out in that tool right in Ads Manager,
Yep.
this is just doing it with a bunch of data in front of you. So it's the same thing. Um, I believe once you've run it, you can definitely make a lookalike audience from that. But it's the same as just entering all of that information into the targeting tool right in your ads manager. It's just more robust in that it lets you, see all those stats and the different page likes and things like that to help you make sure you're going down the right road instead of kind of going in blind.
So if you at the beginning you pick custom audience or your pick interest or whatever versus
Mm-hmm.
uh, people who visited your website,
Yeah.
um, and you mentioned you needed if you have a good number of people you can use that. What is a good number of people?
To create a lookalike audience from that
Or to pull that in
remarketing.
and to pull that information in and use it statistically significant, saying, if I have 10, is that enough? Is 100 enough? Is a
Yeah.
thousand or 10,000 enough from a say traffic point of view? Whether you're getting it's pulling this data from Facebook Pixel, I would assume that you'd have
If
installed
it's
in your
pulling
site.
it, yeah, so it's either pulling it from Pixel or a list that you're uploading into it, so your email list or something like that. With your email list, it has to then go through and match. So if people aren't registering for Facebook with the same email that they've put to get your emails, then it's not going to match. You're not going to have enough data, and it will at one point tell you that you don't really have enough to base anything off of. You'll see your stats. It won't give you, it won't paint a nice picture for what you're going to get out of that ad.
Yeah, I don't like.
So
We have enough audience
yeah.
because we our my newsletter, the one main
Mm-hmm.
one is 15,000 plus, so it's
Yeah.
not a problem.
No.
But would you suggest is that minimum audience or traffic size for you to like? I want to know who's coming to my site or
Yeah.
who's subscribed to my email, so I can look at that same data.
So an email list is a little different because you have to go through the matching part of it, and that'll weed a bunch of it out. But with the pixel on your website and your traffic, I want to say if you have about like you're getting about 50 to 100 hits a day, you can probably pull enough data to make a good audience from that. Any less, and it's not enough information for them to really target that and find those patterns and correlations. I mean, there's always anomalies to that, but that's what I would say would be getting up to at least 50 and better yet, 100 people per day in traffic through your website.
And I think just starting there might give you some insights into what other things people are looking at. Like when I say
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, I don't have specific women, specific age group, so I want to go out and look at,
Mm-hmm.
well, what other things outside of entrepreneur
Yeah.
are the group interested in, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about that 250K or sorry, I think it was 350K to 400K population
Mm-hmm.
or audience. Imran's got a question here about if you put all your uh, proto personas or target audience customer personas in here, and based on that, you added up all those numbers. Um, would you use that as your total addressable market? And it might be unfair to ask you this question, but I'll let you do that and then I'll answer it. If you're uncomfortable, let me know.
So the number that I'm getting from Facebook, would I use that as my total addressable market everywhere? No, because they're not all going to be on Facebook. That is just the addressable market on Facebook. Would be
Yeah,
my short answer to that.
agreed. And this is interest. It's a good lesson or exercise, maybe rather than lesson, for you to actually go through that. If you done all your personas, Imram, if you've attended our other persona events and you've written them down, you could go through it here and put them all in there and get that information and have some very interesting information about uh, easily targetable market. For example, it's not your total addressable market, but you can compare that to your other research and say, all right, we know how to target 1%, 2%, or 3% of this totally addressable market, and we're going after it. So that's how I would kind of figure that out, is what percentage of what I figure the total addressable market is, how much of that is here. This is how I can target them with Facebook ads and retargeting with marketing this percentage of the market. And how do you target the rest of the percentage of the market?
What I was looking at here, so let's say going back to my example of the boutique fitness studio, and I was doing that healthy mom. That's just one of my persona categories. I was coming up with 2 to 3 of those. So the other one that I use in this course as an example is the young professional woman who's finishing her corporate 9 to 5 and then going to her yoga class, that persona as well. So not the parent. So that would add even more people to my total market as well.
Yeah, and until you start getting out there, you don't actually know which ones are going to convert.
Yeah.
For example, you're downtown Toronto, got the studio for moms, but moms have a hard time parking downtown Toronto and no place for their kids and whatever. So yeah, so maybe you find out that it's not moms that actually want to sign up, so you have to switch that.
And that's kind of where we create these personas. We validate them initially using this tool, and then we test them and see, and we test them against each other, and who's converting, where is this coming from, and then you kind of go with the winner.
So a little outside baseball question. What kind of tools, or how would you get the audience insights of your competition?
Yeah, so if your competition isn't listed in that tool because they're not a massive corporation, so if Whole Foods is your competition because you're, an organic grocery store or something like that, you can just type them in as the only thing on there and nothing else and get all of that information. But if they're not, then you're going to want to look at their page, what's on their page, and then kind of try to do the same thing for them. Like, who is the type of person that's interacting with their page? Okay, what do they seem to like? What's the average age of me looking at this kind of thing? And then you can plug that information into there and kind of do a reverse, kind of trying to find your competition's audience.
Yeah, and there's I just put a link in the chat room to a product called What Runs Where, which is an interesting tool to use to find out. You can use to discover winning strategies, learn what ad platforms are running best, and which ones are most profitable for your competition, so you can get an idea of what's working, what isn't. There's a few other tools to do this kind of research. The one just eluded me, but it'll come back while we're chatting. So hopefully, we'll get to that. So, what is the process for you to validate the personas? Okay, so that's a great question. You've got this. You looked at it. The audience seems large enough.
Yeah.
Now, how do you know they're actually an audience? They're going to convert.
Yeah, so I usually start with 2, sometimes 3, and start there and test my audiences. The first thing I test is my audiences before I get into the test for anything else. So I, A/B test that, and you can see if you have a clear winner, if you're getting conversions, have your pixels set up, have all your data points set up, and just really watch your numbers. to get a decent test in the stat reach in your ads manager panel, you're going to want to have that to, I want to say about 2,000. And once you get it to about 2,000, then pause it, look at your numbers. And if you don't see a clear winner, you'll probably see, one's more expensive than the other. I got so many more clicks on this one than another one. But the best way to validate this is to, spend $5 a day for a week and test it out.
Yeah, Marcus Dickinson likes to say, "Do you have 3 days and $100?"
Yeah.
Well, we can figure it out.
Sometimes it takes a few more. It depends on how big your audience is.
Well, yeah, that gets the idea, right?
Yeah.
You can run a bunch of ads on a bunch of different target markets, and you can find that out. So
and you can see.
The other tool I like to use is SimilarWeb, and I just put the other link in there. And it's only big sites, but you can take a look at big sites and find out what's driving their traffic, where's it coming from, some of the keywords, where they're advertising, what social media. You can find out their Reddit or, I found WhatsApp and a few other things for clients for driving a lot of traffic, and we put more channels into that. So you put your competition into a couple of those platforms, and you can take a look.
You can also put your competition, if they have Facebook pages and are running ads, there's another tool that you can use on Facebook, and you can bring up all of their ads that are currently or recently have run as well, which will give you a bit of an idea. You can tell you can't see their exact targeting, but you can see, which ads are doing well, getting clicks and likes, and what kind of language are they using, what's resonating. If you think you have, kind of the same audience, that'll give you some hints there too.
Would you A/B test between two personas to tell which persona will validate better, or would you use a different approach?
Yes, I tend to use, I believe it's 11-step system when I go through this of a whole testing process, which number 1 and 2 are just finding these categories and targeting the customers. And then that's the first main test I run is 2 to 3 personas. Because I don't want to start testing all my copy, my images, all of this kind of other tweaks and things like that if I'm not even sending it to the right person. So I always like to know that I have a decent audience going first before I start any of my other testing.
Yeah, and to go a little further, Imran, just because I know you've been on a few of our other webinars, I don't know if I would use A/B test between two personas to tell which personas will validate better, because there's a couple of different problems with that scenario. If you're running the same ads against different personas, for example, in our healthy mom, if we also targeting non-moms, maybe they convert better with different messaging, but it has nothing to do with their kids.
Yes.
As an example. So you definitely want to target your main value proposition between personas to figure out, yes, this people are clicking or responding or engaging at a much higher level in this age group or this demographic than this one. But that might mean your messaging, that might mean all sorts of things. So you just have to kind of decide which one converts better, and then where you want to put your money.
So when I am testing between two personas that might be, quite a bit different, I try to keep my messaging more generic to something because, like you said, obviously the young professional woman and the healthy mom personas have very big interest differences and at different points in their life. So yes, talking about the mom thing and the, parenting and busy schedule, like they may not both resonate with the same messaging. So you're going to want to keep it generic when you're running that test. And then you're going to get into your targeted copy and tweaking that kind of thing to that persona once you've run this initial, 5-day, $5 test.
I think we've answered this question there, but yeah, I agree. And but it's interesting that you can take advantage of trends when you're targeting. For example, the mothers and stuff, you can make joke around tired of talking Paw Patrol? Meet real adults at the gym or whatever, right? Whatever
Yeah.
is the latest for us at Dora the Explorer and the whole.
It's yeah.
I don't know what the latest are.
It
So,
is
Mike,
Paw Patrol, actually. I just spent a week in a cottage with a 2.5-year-old, and it's definitely Paw Patrol.
yeah, it seems to be very popular. We used to record the CPA Ontario podcast out of the same studio as Paw
Yeah.
Patrol. So,
And my son couldn't identify because he just turned 13 and he was like, this wasn't even around when I was your age.
yeah,
So
it's funny though.
yeah.
My daughter, who's I won't say much older now, when she's I'm going to say was 16, give or take. We were driving by the mall here, and there was a big sign that says, "Oh, Barney tonight," and I saw her look at it, and I'm like, "You want to go, don't you?" And she's like, she looked down at the floor. Yeah, I do. So we went. We ate in the food court, so she could pretend we were just kind of nearby. But it's just funny. Anyway, how many personas do you start working on at the same time when you're targeting ads?
I want to say, unless I'm really torn, two. Sometimes a third will get thrown into the mix, but you should be able to narrow it down to two main ones. Especially, you're gonna want to segregate that by males versus females. Usually, if it's a product or service that's gonna relate to everyone, because even with entrepreneurship, as an example, females are looking at different influencers, different media sites, that kind of thing, versus males. They tend to follow different things and different styles of things. So just for a category like that, that's going to be two separate personas right there. From there, you can branch off. Once you find kind of your main winner, you can split it and go in different directions, but you also don't want to overwhelm yourself when you're just starting with this at the beginning either. So, to have, because you're going to want to have each and every persona in a different ad set. It can all be under the same campaign. I wouldn't optimize your budget for that because you want an equal amount going to each one. And the campaign optimized budget will mess that up. So it has to all be same budget in separate ad sets.
And so when people are starting out, you recommend, they only run a couple at a time, but sometimes people want to run, a bunch of tests to figure things out.
Yeah.
Do you recommend, running a bunch different versus different personas at the same time, or running, a bunch versus the same personas to figure out what works? Meaning, what headline, what color, what body text, what
Yeah.
graphic, and I'll run like 10 of those against women 24 to 40 and see which one gets their attention first.
Yeah. So I like to just get a bit of validation on my persona before I get into any of that. I
Okay.
have, like I mentioned, I kind of do an 11-step process, and all of that is in there in a certain order that I like to start, 1, 2, 3, 4. And just doing an initial validation of my persona is what I like to start with, because I don't want to waste my time A/B testing, headlines or images to just find out that one of the audiences is completely dead anyways, or the audience isn't the right one.
Yeah, that's you're throwing money away when
Yeah.
they're not looking at it. Is there a way or a process you use to determine that, or you just, when I say that your audience is the right one, are you looking for a certain percentage of conversion on your generic value proposition?
Um, there's no I do have a good graphic. I don't have it handy, but it kind of just does, standard, you know, well, amazing for all the different stats out there. It's in a cool little chart. But you can tell, are people clicking through, or is your click-through rate or your cost per click skyrocket high versus one versus the other. It's pretty easy to just look at the numbers, and it usually shows you a clear picture. Very rarely do I look at it and be like, I'm not quite sure which one's doing the best. It's usually pretty in your face with the stats. If you're not getting any conversions, then yes. If you're getting lots of traffic through, but no sales or, inquiries or anything like that from any of that traffic, then you're going to want to look at your website and where you're sending them. But with the stats in the analytics in Facebook, it's usually quite clear as to if it's performing or not.
A lot of people don't talk about it, but it always should come up in the conversation is, your return on ad spend. And a lot of people, we deal with a lot of startups, and a lot of people, I spent $200 and I got nothing, we get this kind of feedback. How much, of, how much spending before you start actually realizing a return on ad spend do you normally see on average? Are you telling people you should come in expecting to spend $500 just figuring everything out before we start actually seriously advertising?
It really, really depends on what you're selling. Am I selling a $5 product or am I selling a $500 product? That's going to be the first thing you're going to look at. The higher ticket the item, the more money you're going to have to dip into it to make that sale. Conversion wise, it's really hard to say an exact number. If it's a lower cost item, so let's say a $20 item, I want to say you should, if you don't have a sale after spending your first like $100 to $200, you're not starting to see sales from that amount of testing, you're doing something wrong. Once you go through a full iteration of testing, which usually takes about 2 weeks at about $5 to $10 a day, you should have a good running ad that's getting you the numbers and the conversions you're looking for. It has a lot to do with who your audience is as well, because your cost per click kind of vary based on who you are actually like marketing to as well. Certain audiences are going to have higher cost per clicks than others because there's more competition going to them as well.
But it sounds like 2 weeks and 150 to $200, and you should be well on your way.
Yeah, unless it's a very high ticket item.
Yeah, and that's if you're selling a $50,000 item, then
And then if you are advertising that on Facebook, you're going to want to kind of maybe look at a funnel, like send them with your Facebook ads to maybe the first step of the funnel, and get that going, not going right to the buy this
lower the ask.
Several $1,000 product off Facebook just by clicking my ad. That's probably never going to happen.
Yeah, and people need to realize that. We talk about funnels, and you just mentioned that. I like to describe them in my growth hacking courses as ladders. Your customer's at the bottom of the ladder. And, if it's a big price tag, it's a high climb to get to the top. So what do you get them to make that first step or that second step? And, you got to shrink the ask to get them on their way. So, and when we talk about return on ad spend, you're exactly right. It really depends on, what is it you're selling, and what is your profit on that? And if you look at, if I'm selling a $100 item and my profit on that is $30, then I should be willing to spend, I don't know, depending on who you talk to, $29 to sell that thing. Yeah. Some people say $30, but that's a whole other discussion. and then ideally you want to lower that down. But so I guess it depends on, people need to understand what they're willing to spend to get that sale, and then start figuring out, that return on ad spend ratio based on conversions and the things we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I think that's it for today. I really appreciate you taking the time, Andrea, to talk to us. And one more time, if people want to find you, I know it's on the screen.
Yeah, it's on the screen there. You can book some time in my calendar at get-social.ca, or the course that I've mentioned a few times in here is available at facebook-ads.ca, and you can get $10 off using the code below.
So thank you for taking the time to share your wisdom with our audience, and thank you everyone for staying with us and being part of this today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.